Morning, all. All right, 9 games tonight in the National Hockey League. We've got four starting at 4 Pacific, 7 o'clock Eastern. So that's starting with Anaheim and Tampa. So this is one that I don't think we're expecting to be close, although Anaheim has been playing spoiler relatively well lately. On October 26th, Tampa Bay went into Anaheim and won 4-2. Anaheim 17, 33, and 7 overall. Their last 10 games, they're 4, 4, and 2. So again, over their last 10, they haven't been awful. Away from home, they're 8, 17, and 6, so that's not a great record. But again, lately they've been better. They're 24 points behind Minnesota, who have the last playoff spot. They're tied with Chicago at the bottom of the West. On the Tampa Bay side, they're 35, 17, and 3. Their last 10 games are 6, 2, and 2. Their home record's fantastic. 22, 6, and 4. They are 2 points behind second place Toronto. They are 9 points clear of Florida. So pretty firmly entrenched in third place, potentially ending up in second, depending on what happens between them and Toronto between now and the end of the season. 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific start between Detroit and the Washington Capitals. This is the third and final meeting on November 3rd. Detroit wins 3-1. On December 19th, Washington wins in overtime 4-3. So for Detroit, they're 26, 21, and 8. Their last 10 games are 7 and 3. Away from home, they're 12, 10, and 5. They're 4 points behind Florida for that final playoff spot. They're tied with Buffalo in points, and they're 2 points ahead of Ottawa. So it's still a pretty tightly bunched group there in the East. On the Washington front, they're 28, 24, and 6 overall. Their last 10 games are 3 and 7. At home, they're 14, 11, and 3. They're 2 points behind Florida for that last playoff spot. They're 1 point behind Pittsburgh. That's right, this morning, Pittsburgh's not in the playoffs. They're 2 points ahead of Detroit and Buffalo. So again, the East is kind of crazy right now, which is great because, as I've said, last year the East was kind of boring to cover. So this year it's nice to see things kind of all over the place. 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific start between the Montreal Canadiens and the New Jersey Devils. On November 15th, New Jersey wins this matchup 5-1. The third and final meeting of the season will be on March the 11th. On the Montreal side, they're 23, 29, and 4 overall. Last 10 games are 4, 5, and 1. Away from home, they're 9, 15, and 3. They're 14 points behind Florida for that last playoff spot. They're 9 points clear of Columbus for last in the East. On the New Jersey side, they're 37, 14, and 5. Their last 10 games are 7, 2, and 1. At home, they're 16, 10, and 2. And that's a big part of what's helped New Jersey to really get things going this year is their home record's getting better. They're 3 points behind Carolina, and they're 4 points clear of the New York Rangers. So if New Jersey keeps this up, maybe they catch Carolina. Who knows? But at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific, those Canes are at home against St. Louis. They did defeat St. Louis 6-4 on December the 1st. In St. Louis, we'll see how things go in Carolina. For St. Louis, they're 26, 27, and 3. Their last 10 games are 3 and 7. Away from home, they're 13, 14, and 1. They're 10 points out of the playoffs right now behind the Minnesota Wild. They are 6 points ahead of Arizona, just showing they're closer to Arizona now than they are to the playoffs. On the Carolina side, they're 37, 10, and 8. Their last 10 games are 9 and 1. They're playing some of the best hockey in the league right now. At home, they're 19, 6, and 2. They're 3 points ahead of New Jersey. They're 7 points ahead of the New York Rangers. So, those are your 4 games starting at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. Then at 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific, we have the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Buffalo Sabres. On November 19th, Toronto won this matchup 5-2. The third and final meeting between these teams will be on March the 13th. Toronto 34, 15, and 8. Their last 10 games are 6 and 4. Away from home, they do struggle away from home, comparatively speaking, with their home record. They're 12, 9, and 4. They're 15 points now behind the Boston Bruins for first in the division. They are, as mentioned earlier, 2 points ahead of the Tampa Bay Lightning. They're second in the division. Tampa Bay, of course, with games in hand at this point. Buffalo, the 28, 22, and 4. Their last 10 games are 6, 3, and 1. At home, this is the problem. This is where Buffalo has problems. They're 11, 14, and 2. So they're great on the road. They are mediocre at home. 4 points behind Florida for that final playoff spot in the East. They are tied with Detroit in points. And it'll be interesting to see whether or not Buffalo and or Detroit can get themselves closer tonight. 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific start for the LA Kings and the Minnesota Wild. LA's won both matchups, so I'm like, sure, I'll wear Minnesota. Why not? October 15th, it was a 7-6 win for LA. Bonkers game. But they got all the goals out of the way. So November 8th, there was only one goal in the game, and that was scored by LA. So 1-0 win there. LA 32-18-7 overall. Their last 10 games are 7-2-1. Away from home, they're 15-9-5. They are 1 point behind Vegas for first in the Pacific. They are 1 point ahead of Seattle for second in the Pacific. On the Minnesota front, they're 30-21-5. Their last 10 games are 5-4-1. At home, they're 18-10-2. And they're 3 points behind Edmonton for that final playoff spot in the West. Or if behind Edmonton for the number one wild card. So he's saying behind the playoffs. But they're 3 points behind number one wild card Edmonton. They're 2 points clear of Calgary. So Calgary, of course, loses last night. If Minnesota wins tonight, that would put Calgary 4 points out of the playoffs. 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific start. I swear I'll wake up at some point. Vancouver and the Nashville Predators. So November 5th, it was a shootout victory for Nashville, 4-3. The third and final meeting will be on March the 6th. For Vancouver, they're 22-30-4. Their last 10 games are 4-5-1. Away from home, they're 11-15-3. They're 17 points behind the Minnesota Wild for that final playoff spot. They're 1 point behind Arizona and 1 point ahead of San Jose. So Arizona's ahead of them. San Jose's barely behind them. I guess I have to kind of root for Nashville. I'm on Team Tank at this point, so there I am. For Nashville, I think everybody's on Team Tank at this point, though. 26-22-6 is the record for Nashville over their last 10 games. They're 5-5. At home, they're 15-10-3. They're 7 points behind Minnesota for that final playoff spot. They're 3 points ahead of St. Louis. So for Nashville, they are in that range of maybe they sell, maybe they buy if they think they're close. They do have games in hand on teams they're chasing. We'll see which way David Poile leans at the deadline. 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific start between the Vegas Golden Knights and the Chicago Blackhawks. Vegas has won both matchups, but they've been close. 1-0 on October 13th and 4-1 on December 15th. So Chicago's managed a total of 1 goal. I don't like their chances tonight. For Vegas, they're 34-18-4. Their last 10 games are 6-2-2. They're getting it together. Their victories haven't been the prettiest or full 60 minutes and all that, but they are getting it together. Away from home, their record's excellent. 17-5-4. They're 1 point clear of LA atop the division. They're 2 points clear of Seattle. On the Chicago front, they're 18-32-5. Their last 10 games are 4-5-1. At home, they're 11-16-3. They're 24 points behind Minnesota for that last playoff spot. They're tied with Anaheim, but they have 2 games in hand. So right now, Chicago's ahead of Anaheim in the standings because they've played 2 fewer games. 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific start then between the Philadelphia Flyers and the Edmonton Oilers. And last night, Philadelphia showed they still can be dangerous. The first matchup was won by Philadelphia in a shootout on February 9th by a score 2-1. So for Philadelphia, they've already shown Edmonton they can be a tough out. They're 23-25-10 on the season. Their last 10 games are 3-4-3. Away from home, they're 12-11-7. They're 8 points back of Florida in the division, and not in the division, for the Eastern playoffs, and they're 6 points clear of Montreal. On the Edmonton side, they're 30-19-8 overall. Last 10 games are 4-1-5. So this is where that distinction comes in, that they've only lost 1 in regulation over their last 10, but they've only won 4 of their last 10. It feels like I'm talking about Dallas because it's a very similar record. So at home, they're 13-11-5. They're 2 points behind Seattle for that third spot in the division. They're 3 points ahead of Minnesota. They're the number one wild card currently, and they're 5 points now clear of Calgary, who of course lost last night. So let me know your winners in the comment section below as always. Certainly not my ability to speak today. That's not the winner. Let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.